Hello everyone, welcome to the DraftKings Daily Trot. I am Big Italy 42, joined again by Scott Mailwig, Sports25 to Life on Twitter. And after a generally unpredictable day, we talked about Hanley Ramirez yesterday a little bit, if we were going to get the good or bad. You messaged me later on telling me, we got the good Hanley Ramirez. Unfortunately, I didn't have enough of the good Hanley Ramirez, so...
Yeah, I mean, there were plenty of guys like that yesterday that had really nice games. One guy we mentioned yesterday on this for third base was Moustakas, and he had a home run and had a nice day too. And, I mean, just getting a couple of those guys in the lineup together is huge, so try and do that again today.
Yeah, absolutely. Clayton Kershaw, thanks but no thanks. He had a great game for most people, but for Clayton Kershaw, it was pathetic. So,
yeah, right.
Yeah. Either way, we're going to talk game by game here about DraftKings, obviously. We're going to go ahead and start off here. Atlanta at Miami. You got this one is Miami, a small favorite, -118. Latos versus Alex Wood. Just a 7-run over-under here. So one of the lower ones on the day, actually many higher ones, 2 of 8+. So in this game, you've got your two pitchers. Matt Latos had himself a down year last year. $8,000. No chance I'm playing him today, even against that weak lineup. How about you?
Yeah, it's really tough to pay that for him, especially with the low innings pitched per start. Like, that's the toughest part for me with him. I don't mind Alex Wood in this game, though. I don't love the price, but he just has a really fantasy-friendly pitching style, and he's a guy that you can kind of count on a little bit for cash games. He's not one of those huge upside guys sometimes, but I don't mind him here. Obviously, you got to worry about Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup, but he's not bad. I would liked it more when this was at 6.5. Right before we started this, it moved up to 7, so I like it a little bit less now.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, we've got 5 pitchers six between 7,900 and 9,000, and Matt Lato is probably my least favorite of all of them, just because, like you said, limited upside. His velocity's been down, so just no thanks for me there. As far as hitters in this one, there's not a lot of guys I'm going out of my way to target, just because this is a lower total. It is up to 7 now, but was at 6.5. Obviously, Giancarlo Stanton always in play in tournaments. On the Atlanta side, there's not a ton of guys I love here either. I mean, I think I'm going to be targeting more of the high total games. So who are you looking at on either side of this one?
Yeah, the only guy I really looked at was Freeman against a righty. I mean, there's nothing really special about him here. Like, it's not... I think Latos is going to have a nice bounce back year, but I don't think he's going to throw that many innings today. I think Freeman will have a decent game, but he's more of a tournament play for me than a cash game play, and that's really the only guy I even have in my notes here that I'm looking at playing from this one.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that was my struggle with this one. I was looking through not a lot of guys I was a big fan of, so we can go ahead and just move on from this one and move on to Baltimore at... Wow, I missed it. Baltimore at Tampa Bay. Wei-Yin Chen against Nathan Carnes. Carnes is his 6th start ever. He's listed only $5,000 today against a Baltimore lineup that completely disappeared at times last year. They were a good stack sometimes against lefties. Obviously, Nelson Cruz out of town now. So is this a guy you think is a viable option down at 5K today? Because obviously no elite top options as far as price-wise, but Carnes at just 5K today is kind of interesting. But then, you look at the total and you've got started at 8.5. Now it looks like it's at 7. Baltimore small favorite. But pretty close line for the two pitchers. So I think at 5K, he's not a bad option.
Yeah, he had a pretty decent spring striking people out, too. I think he had 8 strikeouts in his last start of the spring, which is, I mean, pretty solid, especially for that price on DraftKings. I mean, if you're going like one kind of stud pitcher, I'm sure we'll talk about this Greinke versus Arrieta stuff in a little bit here, but, I mean, he's a decent guy to pair with one of those guys if you want to stack up on hitting a little bit. It's hard to really love him when it's only his 6th career start and you're really not sure how he's going to fare in the major leagues. But for that price, I mean, there's a lot of reward built into that risk.
Yeah, absolutely. And as far as hitters on this one, you got Evan Longoria got off to a nice start. He's sitting at $4,300 at third base there on the Tampa Bay side. So he's got a nice upside. Alejandro De Aza hit a homer yesterday. Not sure I'd like to pay his $3,800 price tag. Do like him more on FanDuel, but more on that later, of course. And outside of that, you got Manny Machado. I maybe have a little man crush on Manny Machado, one of my favorite young players in the game. So am I a little bit biased here, or is Manny Machado a guy you're looking at as well?
He's on my list, too. We'll call it a Manny crush.
Yeah, there we go. I like that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't love the 4,000 price, but there's just something about him, like it's his power or something that makes me really want to draft him every time he's in a decent matchup like this. And it's another righty, and I mean, his WOBA against righties is 352. I mean, that's solid. The problem is just his variance, where like he's going to have monster games, and then he's going to have games where he just gives you nothing, and that's always the problem with him. I like him a little bit more for tournaments. You mentioned Longoria. He's my top third base play of the day, and he's only priced a little bit more. So I'm not going to have as much Machado as I probably like, but I do like him also.
Yeah, and I'm with you there on Longoria. I think he's got to be, on a much shorter slate than yesterday, he's got to be the top option at third base for me as well. Next up, we're getting to the elite pitchers here, at least price-wise. St. Louis at Chicago Cubs here, and this is Jake Arrieta versus Lance Lynn. An interesting one here because we've got a small total, or actually, I'm sorry, no total for this one yet. I'm assuming it's going to be a small total. I would guess 6.5 or 7. I think that's about right.
Yeah, I was thinking it'll be 7.
Yeah.
It should be right around there.
Yeah, Cubs a small favorite here with Arrieta, who had a great season last year. Lance Lynn, we've seen, he's been great at times. Also inconsistent, tends to walk more batters than you'd like. So he's a guy that I really just wasn't a fan of targeting last year because he did have limited upside. I mean, he had those rare big games, but generally speaking, I mean, he was the guy that goes 6 innings to get you a quality start, and that's pretty much about it. So I'm not sure that I'm willing to pay his price tag at just a few $100 less than Arrieta and Greinke today.
Yeah, that's true. I definitely prefer Arrieta in this game, especially with the small price difference. I mean, it's even smaller on FanDuel. We're talking about DraftKings here, where it's 700 of the difference. I like Arrieta slightly more, and I'm probably going to pay that little bit of a premium to have him. His strikeout rate's a little bit higher. I just like the matchup overall better. I think we're going to get to hitters in a second, but I think Rizzo has a really nice matchup with Lynn here. I'm not as scared of the St. Louis lineup as far as like elite plays go. I think Hayward's a decent play, but Arrieta's my preferred guy in this game.
Yeah, and the Cardinals, as we know, kind of struggled with right-handed pitchers last year, so that was their weak point, and we saw their offense was pretty much an all or nothing at times as well. And Anthony Rizzo, I like that call. That's a solid play. He just absolutely mashes right-handed pitching. 391 WOBA, 253 ISO. So he's certainly in play at first base, which isn't particularly deep today on a shorter slate.
Yeah, definitely. And Lynn has had a couple nice years in a row here, but he hasn't done very well against left-handers, especially last season. I think his WOBA against left-handers was over 300, around 315 or so. I just really like Rizzo in this game. There's not a whole lot of other hitters in this game I like. Probably that's why we're expecting the run total to be like 6.5, 7. Like I mentioned, Hayward, as far as St. Louis goes, he's okay. Matt Carpenter's always fine for St. Louis. I never really have a problem playing him against right-handed pitching either, and his price is kind of like middling for his position, so I'm okay with him also.
Yeah, I mean, he was a great cash game play last year. He kind of makes for that as well. I mean, not a ton of power, but a guy that just gets on base a ton, so you got to like that.
Yep.
All right, next up, probably the most exciting game of the day. Once again, we've got Colorado at Milwaukee, an 8-run total here. Milwaukee and Matt Garza, minus 142 favorite against Jordan Lyles, who wasn't terrible last year considering he played in Coors Field, but he wasn't particularly good either, and neither was Matt Garza. He's kind of on that decline where he's on the tail end of his career, not the pitcher that he once was. His strikeouts were down massively last year from where they once were. So this one, you got to see that there's a lot of guys in play, and I'm not afraid to play some Milwaukee bats after they let everyone down yesterday. Fortunately, I didn't have any Milwaukee stacks. I tried to avoid the situation, hope for the best. Didn't pay off like I'd liked, but I'm going back to some Milwaukee bats today. I don't mind it at all.
Yeah, I don't either. As far as bats go, I like Aramis Ramirez for Milwaukee. He's one of my favorite third base plays. He's right in that same range as like Machado and Longoria, though, so it's going to be a really tough decision for me at third base today. I like a lot of third basemen. Let's see who else I got on my list.
Had himself a nice game yesterday as well.
And Tulowitzki and a lot of Rockies did. I mean, this game is going to be one that's heavily stacked again today, you got to think. I mean, I don't love the matchup as much for Colorado today, but that's how I felt yesterday, too, when they went off. So maybe I shouldn't be so confident in that. But, Tulowitzki's a nice play at shortstop today. I really hate paying that price on the road, but as we saw yesterday, I mean, the guy's just so good. And he has so much upside compared to a lot of the other shortstops we're going to be considering today. There's not a lot at shortstop today as far as like value goes, as well as that kind of upside. So he's a guy you got to consider again, even though he's on the road.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, I mean, high total, going to be a popular play, popular game. So you're going to need to get yourself some Troy Tulowitzki. I don't know about how much is up to you, but you're definitely going to need to get yourself some exposure too. And looks like Ryan Braun could end up sitting out. He's got a lower right side injury yesterday, so keep your eye on that. Is not a ton of injury news most times in MLB, but monitor that as you're moving forward today. Maybe somebody bumps up in the lineup. Maybe we see Scooter Gennett back up closer to the top. I mean, we'll see based on that. But as of right now, it doesn't look like he's likely to play. So next game we have another high total, actually the highest on the day. Surprisingly, San Francisco at Arizona, 8.5-point total here. Looks like a pick'em between Ryan Vogelsong and Robbie De La Rosa. And Robbie De La Rosa, despite having that great name, not a particularly good pitcher, pretty average. So you've got pretty much all the hitters in play here. Obviously, for me, it's going to be Buster Posey's the top option from this game, $4,600. I mean, he's expensive, but you can play him at catcher or first base, and he's got big-time upside. Obviously, he's a lefty masher, but he's a well-rounded hitter as well. He can hit righties much better than most people as well. So I still like Buster Posey as my top option here.
Yeah, he's my top play in this game also. Angel Pagan was a pretty heavily owned guy yesterday. His price is up to $4,300 on DraftKings. I don't love that, but if he's hitting 30, hard to argue with him being a decent play here.
Yeah.
He had a really nice game opening day. I think he had 2 doubles and 2 RBI yesterday. Obviously, he's a switch hitter, so that's always nice. And his numbers are actually really solid against right-handed hitting, or right-handed pitching. Sorry about that. Those are my 2 guys from San Francisco that I really like. I don't mind Brandon Belt either, but he's a little pricey for me. That's my concern with him.
Yeah, that's the thing about Belt is we've seen his upside, but we've also seen him go 0 for 4 more often than not. So he hasn't been able to figure out that consistency, it seems, that we've been expecting out of him. So
yeah, he's a lot like Machado for me, where like I really like him all the time, but he lets me down way too often that I probably shouldn't like him as often as I do.
Yeah, absolutely. Also, in this high total, you got to consider Paul Goldschmidt. He's pricey at $5,200. Obviously, more a tournament play. I think I'd rather pay. If I'm going to pay that kind of price, I'd probably rather have Tulowitzki. But I think he's a nice upside swerve if you want to pay up for one of those 2 positions as well.
Yeah, one under-the-radar guy in Arizona is Enciarte. He has a pretty nice price on DraftKings. I think he's $3,300 or $3,400 today when I looked. He steals bases, has decent power. He's just a quality play at that price for me. He's going to be one of my salary relief options today, I think.
Yeah, and should be batting near the top of the order, too, so I definitely like that as well. All right, next up we have Texas at Oakland. Oakland -160 favorite. Jesse Hahn coming over from the Padres, making his first start in Oakland against Colby Lewis, the guy that everybody loved to hate last year. We like to play a ton of guys against Colby Lewis. Every once in a while, he'd go with one of those ugly but effective 7-inning performances and crush all of our stacks. So I'm not saying I'm stacking everyone against Colby Lewis because this is nowhere near the Oakland lineup it was last year. But at the same time, I don't think Jesse Hahn is that bad of an option. He's sitting there at $6K, and he had himself a fine year last year, 8.59 strikeouts per 9. And Texas, we know, was a pretty terrible lineup last year, not much better this year. So I don't mind playing him in some tournaments.
Yeah, I don't either. I think that's pretty solid, especially with being the heavy favorite there. It's really hard to say anything really quality about Colby Lewis right now, so I'm not going to. But yeah, so I mean, with Hahn being cheaper than him, it's really tough not to play Hahn today. I really like that matchup. The over/under 7, with how favored they are, I mean, that should be a really solid game for him, especially at that price. It's just such a solid price.
Yeah, and the big park in Oakland doesn't hurt him either. I mean, still definitely a downgrade from Petco, obviously, but that's the best hitter's park in the game. So I still like the spot for him there. On the hitter side, you got to like Ben Zobrist. He's $3,900. He's at second base outfield eligibility, as he does. And hit a homer yesterday. I believe he had a double as well, a couple hits. But nice performance for him. Yeah, so I don't mind him at all at second base. Not a lot of second base options that I like. Seems like not a lot that you like either. We haven't really mentioned many. So Zobrist probably the dollar for dollar top option for me at second today.
Yeah, the other guy I like in their lineup is Lowry. I think he's a pretty solid play today. He's a little bit overpriced. He'd be nice if he was a couple hundred cheaper. He was solid against right-handed pitching last year. I think he's going to have a really nice year this year. I'm pretty excited about what he's going to do. So for that price, I think he's a decent option in the infield. Outside of that, I mean, you could look at like Craig Gentry, but not super excited about him today.
Yeah, he's the kind of guy you slot in there if he fits, and then you just hope he gets a couple hits, but not a lot of confidence there either.
Exactly.
All right, 2 more games here. We've got the Angels at Seattle. Seattle small favorite, -124. Just a 7-run total here. James Paxton, who had flashed some upside, but also some inconsistencies last year. C.J. Wilson, who has great hair, but not a lot of great talent anymore. He kind of struggled last year. He seems like another guy like Matt Garza, kind of on the tail end of his career. He's still an effective pitcher, but not a guy that I'm going out of my way to target. But at the same time, it is in Safeco. It's a 7-run total, so you're going to be wanting to look at one of the pitchers here because it is one of the lower totals. I think I prefer Paxton here, despite a tougher matchup against that L.A. lineup at 6,600.
Yeah, with the cheaper price, it's really hard to justify Wilson over him. I think he's like a really intriguing play here. He's a pretty large favorite too, so that's always nice. I mean, that's what I like to target as far as pitchers go, is the favorites. The win's just important to me because it's one of those things that if you get it, it just makes up for a lack of strikeouts and whatnot. So I like to target these favorites. I think he's a pretty solid play. He's not one of my favorite plays of the day. I prefer Hahn for 600 less, but he's definitely in play.
Yeah, and he should be pretty low owned because of the tough matchup against the Angels and Mike Trout and company. Who obviously Mike Trout homered off Felix Hernandez yesterday. I saw some people exploding on Twitter like they were stunned at the best player in baseball hitting a homer off King Felix. But either way, I mean, he's obviously always in play. We don't need to tell you that. He's $5,000 today. If you want to play Mike Trout, go ahead and play Mike Trout. He's matchup proof as they come in the game. So on the Seattle side, we've got Nelson Cruz is sitting at $4,100. I was one of the people who I said yesterday I had a lot of Seattle bats all over the place. I had Cruz, Zunino, and Seager in a couple, and they all went 0-4. So moving on to the next day, I don't mind Cruz or Zunino here. Zunino, better price on FanDuel. I'll talk more about that later. But Cruz, definitely a ton of upside at $4,100 tonight. So I think if there's one guy I'm really looking at in Seattle, it's going to be Cruz. Yeah,
that's a really nice price. I looked at Austin Jackson a little bit, but he's a little overpriced on DraftKings for me for the lack of power. Zunino's got a nice price, like you mentioned. I think he's really solid. The other guy I'm looking at in this game is Pujols. I think he's a decent play today at first base. 4,200 has an amount of upside, especially batting after Trout. That's the other guy I'm looking at. There's not a lot I love in this game. It's a pretty low over/under. Like you mentioned, it's in a pitcher's ballpark. It's just really hard to love anyone.
Yeah, exactly. Just not a great spot for hitters in this one, despite decent matchups against the opposing pitchers. So, last game on the docket here, we've got San Diego at the Los Angeles Dodgers. This should come as no surprise here. Zach Greinke, biggest favorite of the day, -165. 6.5-run total right there, going up against Tyson Ross. This right here tells you want the pitchers in this game, not really any hitters. Tyson Ross is an interesting play. And now here's the question. Zach Greinke or Jake Arrieta today, because $200 price difference, a little bit lower of a total and a little bit bigger of a favorite for Greinke. So if you got to have one of the two, who are you going with?
I'm leaning Greinke right now. I feel a little bit better about Arrieta, but I think I'm leaning Greinke just because of all the peripheral numbers you were just mentioning, like the over-under and the favorite and stuff like that. I just have a little bit more confidence in Arrieta's consistency right now. But, I mean, everything points to Greinke. He's got that couple $100 of savings. He had an awesome 2014, and it'll be interesting to see if he can carry that over because, I mean, if he's putting up numbers like he was last year, especially towards the end of the season, I mean, another really nice year, and this price is probably too low.
Yeah, I agree there. And Tyson Ross isn't the guy that you necessarily just want to write off either because he had himself a nice year last year, almost 9 strikeouts per 9 innings. And obviously the Dodgers mash righties as they did last year. Shouldn't be a lot different here, but Ross is one of those pitchers that always kind of goes under-owned, under the radar, but he just pitches well every game. Just seems to always find himself in these spots against opposing with the 5 pitcher rotations, and that's what really hurts Tyson Ross today because that win is just so valuable, and he's a pretty sizable underdog. So I don't think he's a bad tournament play. Or if you wanted to go crazy, maybe play both guys because the bigger chances are one's going to get a win, lowest total. That's an interesting GPP strategy at times when you get one really low total. But really, I'm not going out of my way to play any hitters in this one because I do like both pitchers.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I'd prefer to go against Ross than Greinke. And like you said, Ross is a high strikeout guy. He's got a ton of upside if he did get the win here. There's just, like you said, there's no really great hitter matchups. I mean, San Diego, I don't even have anyone listed on my cheat sheet here, so I don't feel great about that. I mean, I looked a little bit at like some of these lefties, like Adrian Gonzalez and Carl Crawford against Ross, but I mean, with him being a high strikeout guy, it's really tough to like love anyone in this game because of the low total.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot. It's a weird day where there's like a lot of solid pitching options, but no one that really stands out. But all the pitchers, for the most part, are good enough that it's really hard to love a lot of the hitters.
Yeah. I mean, that seems where it kind of is. Pretty much everyone in play as far as pitchers go. It just depends on which route you want to take. So, but a good thing, ton of options though. And if you're really just worried about your hitters, just go ahead and play the guys from the high totals and just move on. Stack them with a couple of good pitchers. Maybe throw Arrieta and Greinke in there. Get yourself some hitters from those high total games.
Yeah, that's a good strategy for today.
Yeah. All right, well, that's going to go ahead and wrap us up here for today on the DraftKings Daily Trot. Check all of our great content out at dailyfantasycafe.com, and we will see you guys again tomorrow.